going live.
Yeah, we're going live. You're not gone. It's not gone. It's not gone.
How long is it taking to get him on his knees for you?
Not too long. He's pretty good.
He's pleading. I hope
Yeah.
he'll just do what he needs.
Yeah. He's gonna use it too.
Yeah, not sure how that works. But
I know. Oh, that may be new for me.
Good, but I'm saying. I can't make too much. But listen, our National Technical Honor Society induction, our students, is tomorrow. And of course, I hope it's at the exact same time at 6 o'clock. I'm so mad. Like, Lord.
Yeah.
I know you are.
hello, how are you? I haven't heard from you. I did. I told you I was interested in that. Okay. Yeah, I'm good.
Good afternoon, welcome to the Rotary Club of Hoover Grange on March 29th, 2023. Please join me in the Pledge of Allegiance, followed by the invocation to be given by King.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Let me take a minute before I read this invocation, which I got off the Rotary website. We're in the middle of the 100th anniversary planning for Rotary. In the course of doing that, you remember Rotarians that contributed so much to the community who are no longer here. One of those was Jim Boyd, who Jim and Annette founded the Sweet Land of Liberty Parade and did so much. Anytime, and I don't give the invocation often, but if I gave a short invocation, Jim went out of his way to tell me how much he liked the short invocation. So, in memory of Jim Boyd, please pray with me. Dear God, may those assembled here today enjoy the many offerings and fellowship of Rotary. May we abide by the rules we have established, those of trust, fellowship, and ethics. May we place service above self in our daily endeavors. May we always test ourselves in our efforts to be sure they are the truth, good for all concerned, a benefit to mankind, and encourage peace and understanding. Amen.
Okay, so I'll come introduce her.
Good afternoon, everybody. We've got two guests today, so as I call your names, please stand and we'll recognize you after introducing the two names. These two people have been here before, so we welcome them back. Kaylin Lane from Sheridan Construction, a guest of Susan Ferguson, and Norma Bird, also a guest of Susan Ferguson from Sweet. Welcome.
Thank you, Scott, and feel free to continue getting your tea and cookies while I do birthdays and anniversaries. Birthdays, we have one, Lee Kathy, is Friday, club anniversary. Willie was 15 years last Sunday. A 2 days ago on Monday, Mike Angstad, 28 years. Keith Schuerman was 10 years, and Mike Wilson, 7 years. Susan Ferguson, I have down 16 years yesterday. And 2 have their first year anniversaries tomorrow, Jared Jones and Sandy Lee. I have one wedding anniversary, Larry and Holly Graff on Friday. I believe it's 27 years, but that DB website says they were married in 1896. I'm gonna go out on a limb and say they meant 1996. Could be wrong. Anyway. Had a good time at the district assembly. Thanks to all of you that went. Hope you got a lot out of it. Tomorrow night, there's some kind of dinner going on for somebody in the club. Jaja is being honored by the Chattanooga Council of the Boy Scouts tomorrow night at the Bellevant. And of course, the district conference, I'll be able to stop talking about that in a month because it's the end of April. I have one announcement, which will bear with me as I make you feel much better about your public speaking abilities. The district has $5,000 for our club to use for disaster relief. It was originally meant for January 6th, but as you know, we just had an event, and so it may be something that we can get some money to quickly for people that are in immediate need. And according to them, the way it works is they don't just give us money. We have to identify specific needs and tell them what it is and give them a dollar amount. And they will send us a check, and then we can use that money for that. So it could be even Mr. Smith down the road has a tree in her yard, and she's uninsured and can't get it out of her roof. We could do that. It could be the Grange Personal Aid needs extra money because they have a lot of more people coming in to do food. It could be United Way wants to provide 100 tarps, and so here's what it's going to cost. American Red Cross needs 40 boxes or whatever for crates of water. Here's the cost. You know, that's it. But that's the way they want it to work. So if you know any of those needs, then if you will just let me know, come up here or send me an email or whatever, we'll get that off to them, and they said they will send us a check, and we can get that money to where it needs to go pretty quickly. So I don't know, even Red, if you've got customers out there that, you know, need something fixed, can't get it working because the tree fell in the HVAC or whatever, and, you know, they need help. If you've got enough people that you know, let me know, and we'll see what we can do. But we need to do that kind of quick because the needs are out there, and that money is ready because it was planned for last January 6th, so it's just sitting there. Any questions? All right, so everybody do your part. Also, after the 5,000 is gone, they said they can go back for more. So don't be stingy. You know, even though it's just 5,000 now, if there's more needs, we prioritize those and maybe get them many more work into that. Okay, so I hope you feel much better about your speaking abilities now. Okay, we do have some time for some happy hours.
I'll start off with one. Today is the last day of the legislative session, day 40, and I am happy that I'm here having lunch with y'all. As a preacher and a politician, Kay, I have never been criticized for being brief.
So I am putting $2 in, and they're both for Barbara Hennigan. Thank goodness she's struggling, but she's coming along. And we know Barbara. I mean, she called today and said, "Now you're going to Rotary, right?" She's always thinking about Rotary, always doing whatever she can. So let's keep her in our prayers, and anything we can do is give her a note of encouragement or something. She sure deserves it. Don't know what we do in her.
She did good, Barbara. Maybe watching in case you were wondering. So, all right, Karis, if you'll come up and introduce our program.
Gives me a great deal of pleasure to introduce my good friend Trip Penn. Trip is the president of Callaway Foundation, Inc., Fuller E. Callaway Foundation, and charitable services company. And prior to him being in these roles, he was a leader in healthcare for over 2 decades. And I had the pleasure of working with him for a number of years at West Georgia, West Georgia. Earlier in his career, he worked at Roosevelt Palm Springs as the director of development, and then was recruited by Jerry Fultz in 2003 to come to West Georgia, where he started the foundation there, and then later was the vice president of support services. In 2016, he and his family moved to Thomaston, where he was the CEO of Upson Regional, and then in 2018, moved back to LaGrange. His love for LaGrange and his respect for the Callaway Foundation brought him back to us, and we're very, very grateful. He's been active, if you know Trip, he has been active in all types of service and leadership roles throughout our community and throughout the state. Those include serving on the boards of Leadership Georgia, and currently he serves on the board of LaGrange College, where he is the chairman of the Building and Grounds Committee, which is a big responsibility. Very active in the First United Methodist Church, where he has served as president of the Sunday school class and also chairman of the church council. He is currently serving on the Downtown LaGrange Development Authority and the Development Authority of LaGrange. And as you know, he's been in Rotary since 1997 and is our president-elect, so he's going to be leading us through our big year of celebration of the 100th anniversary. He received undergraduate and graduate degrees from the University of Georgia and an MBA from LaGrange College. And his family, who are just precious, his wife Megan is with Oak Ridge Insurance Company. They have 3 children. Daughter Riley graduated from Georgia Tech, and she and her husband Harrison live in Augusta. His daughter Hannah lives in Los Angeles, and their son Miller is a junior at the University of Georgia. Now, before I bring him up here, in full disclosure, I wanted to tell you, I knew that I was going to introduce Trip for a long, long time, and I called him last week and I said, Trip, I have an appointment that was rescheduled to 1 o'clock on Wednesday. And I'd like to still introduce you, but then I'm going to be leaving and everybody's going to think, oh, well, she didn't want to hear that. I'm very grateful that Jeff White takes such great notes that I'll feel like I was here the whole time. And I'm really, really sorry that I am going to have to scoot out. It's not the Rotary way. But please join me in welcoming Trip.
Good afternoon. So Karis asks, and I say yes. I mean, there's very little that Karis could ask me to do that I wouldn't do, because she's been a friend and mentor of mine for 2 decades now. Just had a huge impact on me personally and professionally. So, I will say this, looking around the room, maybe Jerry, but definitely Karis has heard me speak more than anybody. And she left. So, word to the wise. That corner table was maybe empty by the time we're done. I am glad to get a chance to talk to you all today. I'm excited about being president of Rotary next year. I've been working really hard with Jake and Jason and Kathy to bring what I think is a great round of programs for you all. So I'm really excited about that. If we have programs that are open, you'll probably hear this presentation again. So maybe don't feel like you need to lock in, because you'll get it. 4, 5, 6 times in, you'll get it. But
Turn on the left side.
that helps. Here we go. So this is a tough presentation, because some of you in the room, maybe half of you in the room, know as much or more about this than I do. But I am going to share some about the foundations. Tell you a little bit about where we are today, where we've been, and how the wealth was generated, and where we're going. And I realize that's about 5 programs. So I'm jamming a lot into a little bit of time. Let me start with the foundations. So you hear me say plural, foundations. You hear Callaway Foundation, we actually have 2 foundations, Callaway Foundation, Inc. and Fuller B. Callaway Foundation. So now let's go back 100 years or more, and I'll talk about how the wealth was generated. So early 1900s, Fuller E. Callaway Sr., and again, this slide is a separate program, probably best given to you by Carlton or Sondra. But so just a brilliant businessman, salesman, started mail order businesses and department stores, and had a hand in creating banks and insurance companies. Not everything he touched turned to gold, but a good bit of the things he touched turned to gold. He was really good at developing textile mills. He became one of the nation's leaders in developing textile mills, and they had a huge impact on our region. He also was very philanthropic and had a big influence on the nonprofit community in LaGrange and Troup County. I mean, if you think about it, he had a hand 100 years ago in creating Rotary, and he had a hand in creating Highland Country Club. So just where we're sitting and what we're doing had a big hand in that 100 plus years ago. Unfortunately, he passed away at age 57, but again, his influence still being felt decades and decades later. And again, he was very philanthropic. One of his sayings was he built American citizens and used the cotton mills to help pay their expenses. So that was his philosophy. He did start Relief Association in 1917, which is a family foundation that's evolved into Fuller E. Callaway Foundation. Now Fuller E. Callaway Foundation is fairly narrowly focused, has about $54 million in assets. Interestingly, half of those assets are in timber. So they don't appreciate as quickly as the stock market does. So this foundation doesn't grow as quickly, but it focuses on supports the operation of Hills and Dales. It supports 3 scholarships. So it supports 7 scholarship, which has provided Jerry 2,000 nurses for Wellstar West Georgia Medical Center over the last 50 years. It's just a really big impact there. It supports Hatton Lovejoy undergraduate scholarship, and we actually had those interviews for that yesterday. If you think we're in trouble with today's generation, you couldn't be more wrong. I just went through 55 applications of some of the sharpest kids you've ever seen and interviewed 20 kids that you'd be happy to let run your company in the next 10 years. I mean, just really sharp kids coming out of LaGrange and Troup County. But we also operate the Hatton Lovejoy Graduate Studies Scholarship, and that provides professional development opportunities for lots of people in our community, particularly teachers. We end up having lots of teachers who go back and get their specialists or masters or doctorate degrees. So that's Fuller E. Callaway Foundation. Again, that's a separate program. Quick look at Hills and Dales. If you haven't been there lately, do yourself a favor. Go visit this spring. The home is beautiful. Architecture is impressive. The gardens are probably even more impressive than the home. They've been around for nearly 200 years. So that was senior, and that's Fuller E. Callaway Foundation. Let's talk about Callaway Foundation Inc. So there were 2 sons, and I'm going to simplify this. 2 sons. Kason was the older brother, and he helped to run the mills for a number of years, very philanthropic. Took a significant amount of his wealth, and he started Callaway Gardens. So Callaway Gardens is a totally separate organization. So if you're asking me if I can get you fantasy and lights tickets, the answer is no. And I've told my dad and my stepmom that 15 times, but they don't get it. No, you can't get those tickets. But wonderful organization, totally separate. So younger brother, about 10 years younger, Fuller Jr., stepped into his dad's shoes, and again, just a brilliant businessman, very philanthropic, helped to build on the legacy his dad created. So he led Callaway Mills. Callaway Mills at one time had 6,000 employees. So think of what is Kia, about 3,000? I mean, it just gives you an idea of the magnitude of those mills on the region. But again, as I said, Mr. Callaway was a brilliant businessman. And when he started the foundation in 1943, in later years, he put the assets, the hard assets and the stock of the mills inside of Callaway Foundation. So when the mills sold in 1968, it helped to fund Callaway Foundation. So again, really brilliant way that there were tax savings and very complicated structure that just really gives you some insight into how bright he was. So in his later years, he led Callaway Foundation Inc. and forward in Callaway Foundation for many years. And his grandchildren and great-grandchildren are the trustees of the foundation today. Just question, how many of you in the room knew Mr. Callaway? I'm assuming they're, okay, a handful. And that, you know, it's less and less people do. So it's good to see some people still remember. But again, one of the things we've been going through in the last couple of years is that transition from his grandchildren who served on the foundation for 25 plus years to his great-grandchildren. So as I mentioned, he started Callaway Foundation Inc. That's the larger of the foundations. Has about $250 million. And that's less than it was a year and a half ago. You know, it's, as we look at our 401k, we see a few $1,000s up or down, it's easy to get nervous. Try tens of millions of dollars going up or down. It's hard not to get nervous about it, but it's been as high as 280, 290, and it's around 250 now. But we give away about 5% of that every year. We typically give about $10 to $12 million away to the community every year. And it is all about quality of life in Troup County. That is why that foundation exists. Certainly we give to specific organizations. LaGrange College, we've given more money to LaGrange College than any other organization. Wellstar, churches, nonprofits, arts organizations, and we've certainly given across the spectrum. There are some organizations outside the community, but not many. Almost all of the organizations are within Troup County, but those groups we do support. Georgia Tech, Auburn, University of Georgia, Children's Healthcare of Atlanta, Shepherd Center, just to give you a few examples. All of them serve and support people in Troup County. So Mr. Callaway's philosophy was the money was made here and ought to benefit Troup County residents. So that still stands true today. And our gifts range from $25 to $10 million. And our largest gift was in 1968. $10 million given in 1968. Think about that. That's huge today. But it was given to help set up professorial scholarships at all the colleges and universities around the state. And just, again, that's just hard to even think about what that would be like in today's dollars. So to give you an idea of how the money's given away, part of it goes to recurring gifts, groups like arts organizations that we know we're going to support their budget every year. Another portion would be more reactionary, where we give gifts to, say, LaGrange College or Wellstar's having a capital campaign. We would donate a significant amount to those organizations. And then part of it, you know, it's not necessarily a third, but part of it is strategic giving that our trustees, areas where the trustees want to make a difference in the community. So over the last, from about 2000 to 2020, the trustees supported downtown development. And over the course of that time, I hope you'll agree it was pretty transformative. I mean, those of you who lived here before 2000, downtown's radically different than it was. And we invested about $60 million during that time. We didn't do it alone. We certainly had partnerships with the city, and the county, and the state, the LDA. And so we never do anything alone. We always do it through partnerships. And then, as I mentioned, we're governed by Generation 3 and Generation 4. Our board is 7 members now, and it's going to grow to 9 members starting in April. And they grow to as many as 11, so it's a fun challenge. A little bit about our mission, vision, values, because it's relatively new. We just adopted that in last year or so. Missions to resource and catalyze efforts to make Troup County a great place to live for all of its residents. A couple of key phrases there. Resource, you know, we want to be a catalyst. We want to make sure when we support a project, it makes it better. We want to add fuel to good projects and make them stronger. And then all of its residents. We want to make sure we have opportunities for every resident in Troup County, not just some. Our vision is for everyone in Troup County to have a quality education, good job, safe and affordable housing, engagement with the community, and what they need to flourish. Again, everyone. Those are really words we spend a lot of time thinking about and talking about. And our values, those things we believe and stand for, are learning. We feel like we're not experts, so we need to listen before we act. Transformation, we want to, if we're involved, we want people's lives to be radically better. Strategy, downtown development, we followed a strategy for 20 years, and we'll do the same thing with our new priorities. Respect, we want to have high levels of respect for our team members and our nonprofit partners and the people that they serve and that we serve. And then stewardship. I think if you ask our trustees, they'll tell you, they know there's a level of responsibility that comes along with the legacy of the Callaway family and the foundations, and there is a privilege that comes along with that level of influence, and they take that very seriously. So I'm going to go through these quickly, but just some of the shots from downtown development. Delabon, Broad Street Apartments, Sweetland. I mean, you talk about quality of life. Let's get 2,500 people together side by side and listen to some great music together. Wildly Brewing Company, it's helped to make LaGrange a cool place for people to visit. Not that it wasn't cool before, but it's cooler. And then South Bend, again, that's our southernmost development, the southern part of downtown. And then, of course, there are just a variety of groups we support. And then there's the iconic clock tower, which you all know. So what's next? Our trustees felt like, if you look at the downtown plan, they were able to accomplish most of the things on that list. So it's time to start thinking about what was next. So they thought about what would have the biggest impact on quality of life in True County. And just broadly, they felt like education and housing. Now, it's more specific than that. It's more child development and taking care of social, emotional, and physical needs, but just broadly, it's education and housing. So you all probably know these, but you ask the question, why education? You know, what impact does that have? And I'm just going to hit a few stats. So by age 3, middle-income kids are going to hear 30 million more words than lower-income kids. Think about the impact that has on children and their development. We know that 80% of brain growth is done by age 3 and 90% by the time they get to kindergarten. So the importance of that birth through kindergarten just can't be overstated. We know that kids who can't read by the end of 3rd grade are more likely to have poor health, poor mental health, discipline problems, more likely to become teen parents. We know that kids who can't read proficiently by the end of 3rd grade are 4 times more likely to drop out of high school, 3.5 times more likely to be arrested. We know high school dropouts are 63% more likely to be incarcerated than their peers with 4-year degrees. We know if you look at the prison system, and we have some of the highest incarceration rates in the country and the world. 70% of that population can't read past 4th grade. So just think if we can get some of those to read by 3rd grade. And then this really hits me. And this is more related to poverty, but it's certainly related to literacy. Life expectancy rates for a kid, for a man living in poverty, 15 years less than a man in middle income or higher income, and for a woman that's 10 years less. So those rates are more like somebody living in Sudan than living in the United States. So think about that. So why would our trustees choose this, and why would they focus on poverty and education and housing? So there's a child being born at Wellstar this week. Let's just say it's a male, a little boy, and he's born to a teen mom, and she's living in poverty. We'll say she's a woman of color. That child is going to live potentially 15 years less than our children. And that just doesn't seem fair. So how can we help that? Our trustees feel like they can help that by helping more kids read by 3rd grade. Some of the things we've done, I'm not going to go deep into this because I don't want to run out of time, but some of the things we've done so far, we've just done a little bit so far. There's so much more work to do. So we're in the process of developing a master plan and have metrics and strategies and goals. We're in the process of that. We created a strategic advisory group to try to get the voice of those working from birth through high school. Tabitha's a member of that group. Kathy Tilley, we have some other great representatives part of that group. And we're going to hear their voice and get their feedback on what works and what doesn't. We've had some partnerships with the school system, had a great working relationship with the school system. We've worked with them on communities and schools and the Strings program, which has been wildly successful in Green Power Racing, but we're going to do much more. We've also supported groups like Get Troop Reading and Mady Smith and McGregor Center and tried to incentivize more child care centers to be quality rated. But again, we're going to be doing much more. So just a couple of shots of education projects. This is Griggs Center, really excited about this project. This is phase one. We're really not hopeful. We're determined that along with the city and the county's help, there's going to be a phase two, which includes a pool. That's a little shot of the library. We're really fortunate to be part of that project. So those are, again, some of the projects I mentioned. That's an example of some of the playground equipment that's going to go at Mady Smith, much needed replacements there. Thank you, Patty, for your help with that process. And here's the Green Power Racing. Now this is something we funded a few years ago. If you haven't seen this, do yourself a favor. There are just hundreds of kids in elementary, middle school who are working on these electric cars. And there's going to be a major race in our community on April 15th on the Callaway campus at LaGrange College. It's hosted by Diverse Power. Really, if you don't get it and don't know what this is about, come watch for an hour and you'll absolutely get it. And this is the Strings program, which there are hundreds of kids involved with this program. Hundreds. Really great partnership with the Symphony, great partnership with the school system. One of the neatest things about this program, incredibly diverse. You know, there are lots of kids who may or may not have ever had an interest in the cello or violin, who are getting opportunities to learn to play classical music. So just really cool partnership. Housing. So you think about it. We want to make sure every kid in Troup County on the education side has an opportunity to be ready for kindergarten, read by third grade, get a great job. We have lots of great jobs in the community. Graduate high school and be part of our community. We want to make sure that same kid has safe, stable, and affordable housing. So housing is a little bit behind education, but we're in the process of looking for a partner to develop a master plan in housing for the community. We're really close. We have a group identified. We've made some investments in Hillside and Calumet. We'll do more of that, and certainly there'll be other neighborhood development. This is just one shot of a partnership we did with Dash, and it's a commercial development in Hillside neighborhood. There'll be 5 businesses coming to Hillside really soon. We're very excited about this project. So what's missing? We've talked about a number of things. So the downtown puzzle, we were able to accomplish, and I say we, I didn't have anything to do with it. Spear and the trustees, they did all that, and I just came in and get to talk about how great it was. But we never were able to pull off downtown residential. And we felt like all along, that was part of the plan, and we got really close several times, but just never quite got there. And the feeling is, if we can get 200, 300, 400 people living downtown, they're gonna buy more retail, and we're going to have more restaurants, which everybody wants. So the feeling is, if we can get people living downtown, it's going to fuel and sustain all that investment that the city and we did over the years, and also bring on new investments. So downtown residential is still right at the top of the list. We've been talking to a group, EYC, out of Charleston for about 3 years, and we have gotten really close. City's been right at the table and lockstep with us. County's been with us, VLDA. We're very close. Unfortunately, the interest rate environment over the last 6 months has made it much more challenging. So it's delayed, but we're still talking. We're still talking. The deal's not dead yet. We met just a couple of weeks ago, and we're in the process of talking to the county and the school board about some creative ways to hopefully close the deal on that. So if it doesn't get done soon, it'll get done eventually. So it's going to still be on the list. And there are other groups who are interested in listening. So, that's everything. That's what I have. Got a couple of minutes, answer any questions you have. Don't be surprised if I don't defer to Carlton or Sandra. Yes.
This is less of a question and more of a comment. In the 1980s, a long time ago, Hughes Aircraft Company was looking to expand its manufacturing out of Southern California. And the search committee came up with, after 2 years, came up with 2 locations, Bettendorf, Iowa, and LaGrange, Georgia. And I remember that meeting, and LaGrange, Georgia was selected because someone had talked about the impact on the community by the Callaway Foundation. So I don't know if you were directly responsible for having the manufacturing facility on Orchard Hill Road.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I'll just go ahead and take credit for that. I was in high school.
I have a question, well, a lot of questions from the statement as well. First, thanks for the Callaway Foundation for all they've done for the city of LaGrange and Troup County. And my question is going to be, and you answered it on the very end, I'm very interested in that development down the Lloyd's building. And hopefully, if there's anything else that the city can do to help further along, I just want to say that.
Me too. Thank you. Other questions?
Got one, please.
Yes, sir.
I know the Callaway Foundation, they sold to Milligan, correct?
Yes, Callaway Mills did.
Yeah, Callaway Mills did. Is there anything that can be done, remember the mentorships they used to have? Is there anything, I know you're on education, I know it's early education, but anything with those high school kids that we can get them back involved in jobs, the mentorship?
That's a good question. So the mill sold in 1968, so it's been a long, long time since that transaction took place. So we really don't have any involvement with Milliken at all. But thank you for your question.
I have a question. I'm a pastor at St. Peter's Catholic Church, and I want to thank you for your help with our church through the years. And I have a huge community of Hispanics that are moving in and have some of them established. And the children certainly are born in our area. They attend our schools. Their English is perfect, pretty well. But the Spanish adults, from Guatemala, Mexico, principally, some new waves from Venezuela. Is there anything in this brainstorming, if I could get a grant from you, or maybe work with the city or the county, having English as a second language facility to expand whatever program they have, if the church could offer something like that to help? Because I just had 2 appointments today. I'm fluent in Spanish, but it's hard for me. That's my 3rd language. Italian is my 2nd, so it's hard. Even I'm a little bit frustrated because some documents is a wedding situation, and I'm married, and they're married civilly, but not canonically. That's a whole other conversation. But their documents are from Guatemala and Mexico, and it's a whole new bureaucracy. But communicating in Spanish is not easy. And so the one lady that I was talking to, she doesn't know English hardly at all. So I was patient listening with her, of course. But it's just be much easier if I can get a program or something that I can allow them. But it's hard because our Hispanic community work a ton, like 16 hours a day, 12 hours, which is very sad. I mean, the plight of our lower income communities, they're asked to work too much. You know what I mean? And I don't know how we can, like a pressure cooker, let off some of the pressure so they can learn, like you said, in education, to get English under the belt. They know very good workers, but it's hard to communicate. Some of them, they don't. They have a right to the language, and we do the best we can. But I want to see if we can work with the Callaway Foundation, the city of LaGrange, or somebody to help facilitate the process of speaking English. And then also having Spanish as a second language, or their English language, or American English, to help dialogue. So Is that the only one?
Literacy volunteers, down in Bank of America. Most of his English is-
So, couple of comments. I mean, there's a lot in that question, so there's a couple of comments. First, look around the room. You know, people who are needed to make that happen, a lot of them, whether it be school system, city, county. So we work through partnerships. So I would suggest pulling some of those people together to talk about it. Other thing I'd say is we're always open to good ideas. So while I can't speak specifically, I don't have a vote, one thing, but I can't speak for our trustees, but we're always open to good ideas. So, you know, if that's something, you know, you want to pull a group together to talk about, I think it's worth talking about. Yes.
We all know that the Callaway Foundation has done a wonderful job of putting chairs at the various universities. And I just think that it would be wonderful if we could consider having chairs in our private schools. You know, we can only go so high with so much money. It's based on revenues. But if they had the opportunity, when it's time for this one to retire, or whoever's there now, and LaGrange Academy, just imagine if the Callaway Foundation, and that wonderful, I don't know the name of the school that is, there in downtown downtown LaGrange. What's the name of that school? It's a black school, I don't know, I love it. Sound doctrine. And those people are getting older, you know? Is it gonna die? What would happen if we had chairs at the 3 schools?
Thank you. John?
I just wanted to say, I mean, thank you for all the gifts to the Callaway Foundation, everything that you've made happen, but in particular, thank you for your matching gifts.
Oh,
Because the matching gifts prompt us to also take a step forward and meet you halfway. And I think that has such an impact on our community, saying, we will do an enormous amount, but we'd really like to be by our side. And every time I see that, I think it's wonderful. And, of course, thinking of the Walton Murphy Scholarship Fund as well, and the charge for us to match. But y'all give last person.
Thank you.
and that's how isn't that how the chairs go, they're matching gifts?
The schools have to be committed to investing a certain amount. All right, about out of time. Thank you.
Thank you, Tripp, and in honor and great appreciation of your speaking today, we will constantly ask you for continued donations to anything we can think of. Something like that. So, as you can tell, it's going to be an exciting year next year for many reasons. Tripp will be president, 100th year, lots of great speakers, lots going on. Until then, we've got great speakers coming up, including Brent Gibbs from Sweetland is next week. So you don't want to miss any of those, and then you don't want to miss the annual banquet. All that's going to be great and kick off. The only thing you need to do for me, though, right now is if you know a need, you need to identify the need and give me a price. And just let me know what that is, and we can get money and help people that are in need today. All right? Thank you so much for being here. We are adjourned.
I'll see you later.
Okay, okay.